Whether it's the injury bug or a slump that has you looking for fantasy help, you've come to the right place. Hi, and welcome to Fantasy Move Makers, presented by Levitre here on CBSSports.com. I'm Amber Wilson. 3 weeks ago, we talked about the rising stock of White Sox hurler Gavin Floyd after he flirted with a no-hitter against Detroit. The 25-year-old was winless in his next 3 starts and was owned in just 52% of all CBSSports.com fantasy leagues entering this week, despite a 2-1 record and a solid ERA and WHIP. Well, if you didn't make a move on Floyd then, you're surely going to have to race to the waiver wire to get him now. The 25-year-old right-hander took a no-no into the 9th against the Twins Tuesday night, only to see it fade away on Joe Mauer's one-out single. Floyd's record now stands at 3-1 with a 2.50 ERA and a WHIP of just under 1. A pair of Tampa Bay Rays top this week's most added list. Scott Kazmir, of course, is a must-own when he's healthy, but a strained elbow kept some away for the first month of the year. Shaky season debut aside, Kazmir's stock rose 30 points and is now owned in 89% of CBS leagues. Kazmir's teammate Andy Sonnenstein climbed the charts to the tune of 36 points after winning his 4th straight start on Tuesday. Sure, his ERA and WHIP aren't stellar, but he's on the right track, having yielded only 8 earned runs during his recent hot streak. Elsewhere on our most added list, 1 start and 1 win for Yankees call-up Darryl Rasner was enough to gain the attention of fantasy owners, and Oakland's Greg Smith continued his ascent with a 3rd straight exceptional performance in which he struck out 10 Texas Rangers over 6 innings of work. On the flip side, Giovanni Gallardo has fallen off the fantasy radar after tearing his ACL over the weekend in a collision at first base against the Cubs. Injuries also led to the frequent release of Phil Hughes and Chad Cordero, while the early season struggles of Cubs lefty Rich Hill will have him going to the minors. The key name to watch on this list, of course, is John Smoltz, who you should try to store away if you can. Smoltz is still sidelined with arm troubles, but his impending arrival to the bullpen upon his return still gives him plenty of fantasy value. We have to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere because when we return, we'll explore the hitters that are making a move in one way or the other. Welcome back as we scour the free agent pool for position players. There's a good chance Rockies shortstop Troy Tulowitzki's name might show up if you check the most recent activity on the waiver wire. That's because the sophomore sensation is out until at least the All-Star break because of a torn tendon in his quadriceps. Tulowitzki was starting to pick up the pace after a slow start, but now his bat will be missing from Colorado's lineup as well as yours. He was dropped in almost half of all CBSSports.com fantasy leagues. Tulowitzki is joined by 2 more prominent names on the most drop list this week. Both Hank Blaylock and Jorge Posada are casualties of injuries, and the same goes for Marlins outfielder Josh Willingham. The oft-injured Blaylock is once again on the 15-day disabled list with a partial hamstring tear, while Posada and his injured shoulder aren't expected back from his first ever stay on the DL until mid-June at the earliest. Willingham, owned in 94% of CBS leagues, was off to a great start in South Florida with 6 homers and 16 RBI, but a stiff back saw his value plummet 36 points. As for the hitters who are on the rise, Mike Lowell returned from the DL and returned in many a fantasy lineup. His value jumped 18 points, and what do you know? He finally picked up his first homer and RBI of the season on Monday against the Tigers. 2 outfielders have carved a nice little niche for themselves in New York and Chicago, respectively. Ryan Church and Carlos Quentin have certainly exceeded expectations with their new clubs. Just over a month into the season, Quentin is already near career highs in homers with 8 and RBI with 24. Church leads the Mets with a .314 average and 24 runs scored, and his 23 RBI are second only to David Wright. And finally, Ryan Domit has become a great option at catcher for the Pirates and fantasy owners. He's hitting a healthy .337 with 5 homers and 20 runs scored and is on pace for a career year. That'll do it for this week's edition of Fantasy Move Makers. Over the next 2 days, we'll help you set your lineups for next week, so keep your mouth right here at CBSSports.com. And if you miss anything here today, stop, refresh, and rewatch. I'm Amber Wilson.